Here we want to find the exact circumference of the circle. Well, you'll notice we have an isosceles right triangle. That means that this is also a 45, 45, 90 right triangle. So if the leg is 6, then the hypotenuse has to be 6 root 2. You should have that memorized. So the diameter of this circle is 6 root 2. So circumference equals pi times diameter. The traditional way of writing this is to write the integer first and then the irrational numbers. And so that's the exact value for the circumference of the circle in inches. 6 pi root 2. Here we're told some things that the measure of BCD, or excuse me, measure of angle BDC, so this angle is 40 degrees. So if that's 40, then the intercepted arc is 80. They also tell us arc AB is 110. And then arc CD is 110. So the full circle is 360. We already have 110 twice and then also the 80. So if we add those up, (110) and 110, that'd be 220 plus the 80 would be 300. So the remaining portion of the circle, the arc AD, will have to be 360 minus 300. So it gives us 60 degrees for the measure of arc AD. And then angle 1 is what we're looking for. Angle 1 is it's an inscribed angle, so it's half of the intercepted arc. So the measure of angle 1 is equal to half of 60, so the measure of angle 1 equals 30 degrees. Here we want to find the measure of PR, or we could just say PR, that distance from P to R. Now we're told that UQ is equal to US, which means those segments are congruent. If those segments are congruent, then the chords are congruent. TS is 5. Also, we have a segment coming from the center and it's forming a right angle there, so we know that these chord segments have to be congruent. So RS is also 5. So PR is equal to RT, and RT is equal to 5 plus 5. So 5 plus 5 is 10, so PR is 10. Here we're told that if it appears tangent, then it is, so that's a right angle. So we can use the Pythagorean theorem. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. (12 squared is 400, or excuse me, 20 squared is 400, 12 squared is 144. Solving for x squared, we'll subtract 144 from each side, we get 256. To get rid of squared, we'll square root. Only a positive answer makes sense. And so x is 16. Number 5, again, we're able to assume anything that looks tangent to be tangent. So that means if HN is 16, then HJ would have to be 16. JK would be congruent to KL. Alright, so if HJ is 16 and HK is 26, then JK is 26 minus 16. So JK is 10, and so JK and KL are congruent, so X has to be 10. Here we're told that the measure of angle ACB is 70, so that inscribed angle is 70. So that means the intercepted arc is 2 times the inscribed angle, so the intercepted arc is 140 degrees. And so that central angle there is also 140. And that's what we're looking for. So the measure of angle ADB is 140 degrees. 7, again we have tangents, so those are, if tangents meet at a point, they're congruent. So the measures are equal, so we can say x squared plus 8 equals 33. Then we can solve for that, subtract 8 from each side. To get rid of squared, we'll square root. And so x equals positive or negative square root of 25, which is 5. Now technically x itself here could be negative 5 because we'd have to square it and then add 8 to find AB. So we're not saying a side length is negative, we're just saying that the x is negative. Number 8, equation of a circle, and we're trying to write it, trying to figure out the center and the radius. So we have x squared minus 2x plus y squared minus 8y. Now what we want to do here is write it in center radius form. So we're going to complete the square. To complete the square, we take half of b and square it. So half of b and square it. Where that plus came from. Half of negative 2 is negative 1, and then negative 1 in parentheses squared is 1. So if we add 1 to the left side of the equation, we have to add 1 to the right. Now for this next part, take half of negative 8 and square it. Half of negative 8 is negative 4 in parentheses squared, 16. So if we add 16 here, then we're going to add 16 here. So on the right side, negative 1 plus 1 is 0, plus 16 is 16. Now on the left side, we're going to factor those. So x squared minus 2x plus 1, that's a perfect square trinomial. We just made it into one. So it factors in the square root of the first, square root of the last, sine from the middle, squared. The y squared minus 8y plus 16 is a perfect square trinomial. We just made it into that by completing the square. Square root of the first, square root of the last, sine from the middle, squared. So now we have it in center radius form. Center radius form is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equal to r squared. So we can look at it and tell that the h is 1 and the k is 4. So we have a center at 1, 4. And then our radius squared is equal to 16. So we'll square root both sides. Only a positive answer makes sense for side length. So our radius is 4 and our center is 1, 4.